Okay, so this goes back. By the way, thank you to our old friend Chase there from Dallas. This goes back to something that we talked about earlier in the show, and we have talked about getting the best competition out there. Obviously, the U.S. is going to play the World Cup in the United States. That's all fine and well, but I want to, I guess, attribute to Jurgen Klinsmann. I want to take this team out of their comfort zone as much as possible, and so I would look and say, okay, what are you want 5 friendlies that you want to see? You'd get what you would feel are not just the best teams in the world, but the biggest differentiation of play. So, for example, I'm going to include Brazil because I'm playing these games on the road. So I would send the U.S. team down to Rio. Now, the problem is a lot of these teams want to come to the U.S. to get the lay of the land, but this is what I get to choose. So go down to Rio at the Maracanã and playing against Brazil. Go to England, play England in Wembley, that type of stuff. Let's see. Argentina, I would just certainly do that, and I would play them down in Buenos Aires. And then you get into interesting things. France, I think that would be it. And so, the best teams in the world. Then it gets interesting because I would probably say, from a stylistic perspective, I would want them to play against like a Germany or something like that gives them a little different feel. I know it's stereotypical, but the physical part, and I know Germany isn't what they used to be, but that still playing Germany in Germany, which by the way we have done before in the past, and won. I think that 90 minutes is of incredible value, especially to, again, sometimes we forget, this developing team of a lot of young players. Mosse, what about you?
Well, we should say it sounds like the U.S. is going to play Colombia right before the Copa America, which is interesting because Colombia is on the same side of the draw as the U.S. We were told the U.S. was trying to avoid that, which is why the friendly against Brazil was scrapped after the Copa America draw. But I guess after trying other options, they finally circled back to what the heck, we'll play a team that we might end up playing again in the Copa America. It's not that big a deal. So
I would add one, and because the U.S. is not going to have to qualify, we're not going to have that hexagonal type of situation. Playing Mexico in Mexico City, I think, is always a good experience for these players, and not just from a soccer perspective and a competitive perspective on the field, where it's always good and a very different type of environment. But I also think from a morale perspective and a team dynamic perspective, to understand who you are relative to Mexico and to understand what CONCACAF is and to understand the passion and the emotion and the history that exists between these two teams, I think being reminded of that is good. Not just for playing against Mexico, but it's good in terms of the development of this team. So I might even throw something like that in.
I will say the U.S. played Germany already this cycle. Sounds like they're going to play Colombia. Yep. They might play Mexico in the Nations League final in March. They'll play Uruguay in the group stage of the Copa America, and then they could face Brazil in the quarterfinals. That would be a nice little sample of tough matches in a short period where you can extract a lot of valuable data points. So
I'd want an African nation too, if possible, and because what these groups are going to look like, you never know, and who you're going to come up against, and so I'd want that too, and I'd love for the U.S. to go to Africa and to play in an African nation. That'd be cool too.
You like that clip? Well, my State of the Union podcast drops twice a week right here on my very own YouTube page. The only way to stay up to date is to hit that subscribe button down below. Size the day, and see you soon.